Welcome to episode 24 of season 5 of Whole Lot of Wolves. I'm Joshua Buckley with my co-host Paul LePage.
Hello.
In New York, our great producer Alex Patakis.
What's up, guys?
And joining us once again from Charlotte Wolves, it's Brian Donley.
Hey, everybody.
Well, let's get right to it. Another week, another loss. This one, 1-0 defeat to Arsenal at home. Paul, I mean, what was your feeling throughout the game? Did you ever feel like there was a chance Wolves were going to pull that one out?
I was never majorly confident, which is sad, I think, because it just shows that initial managerial new manager bounce has really evaporated when it should be a big opponent come in to your home ground and just showing up better than what they did. And as the game went on, you know, there were flashes and everything, but it had that nagging underlying feeling that something was off. And whether it was like atmosphere, it didn't seem up for it, translated to the players, fluidity like amongst the team just didn't seem there at all. And to really exert no pressure was pretty damning for me, and especially again as the home team not having that fire in the belly to really come out and really show them something, and that really showed during the game and became apparent as it went on that it was something distinctly seemed off on Saturday.
Well, it looked like Wolves may have caught a break in the first half. Miles Lewis-Skelly drew a straight red for Arsenal. What did you think of that when it happened, Brian? Did you agree with that being a straight red?
Honestly, I was pretty surprised when I first saw it. When it first happened, I was like, oh, yeah, it's a yellow. And then when they showed it again and his spikes were just like halfway up his calf, and obviously the commentators were noting that the refs have been instructed to be more strict on high up the leg, spike up challenges. It felt pretty fair to those things, but I would say I'm sure if I was on the other side, I would be not very pleased about it.
Yeah, Paul, were you surprised VAR didn't overturn it?
No, I actually think that it was it sounds weird to say, but it was a really good piece of refereeing because he was on the spot. It was right there. He knew straight away that it was a sending off. And was it a trip that he got wrong, that he totally mistimed and turned it into a bad challenge? Yeah, it probably was. So the intent might have not been in there to break the bottom of his shin, but when your foot goes in at that point of the leg, you could probably see Michael Oliver start to process it because he was on the spot and he could see it, and he added everything together and was like, right, that's a sending off. So the letter of the law, was it deserved? Yeah. Was the intent there? Probably not. But when you stack that all together, it was a sending off. And I saw it today even, that actually if that had happened in a Sunday league game as amateurs and a ref was that close to it, he'd have probably sent it off as well. And the Sunday league game would have got even worse in terms of a melee and people steaming in and fighting and everything. So I think from EPL all the way down, refereed right. It was the right decision.
Well, Alex, as soon as that happened, I know our little chat was like, well, this is good, but we better watch out for Joao Gomes to get a second yellow. And lo and behold, that's what happened. I mean, that was inevitable, wasn't it?
Yeah, it definitely seemed like it. It's really frustrating because you could just see these things coming from a mile away, and they're definitely avoidable, you know? Like at that point in the game, although I will say, Arsenal did come out, and I think with a different energy to start the second half. So I wanted to say, like, at that point in the game, I feel like having both Joao and Andre as a little bit duplicitous because we probably want to be controlling more of the ball. Maybe we'd want yellow card aside, I feel like it would make more sense knowing that we're going to have to pick the lock on their incredible defense and hopefully be dominating the ball a man up. Someone like Tommy Doyle would be better suited for that. And really, when you've got one of the two Brazilian midfielders on the yellow, it just makes sense to take the one with the yellow off. Look, I agree with Vitor in a way that, you can't ever really fault Joao because the way he plays, I mean, he does leave it all on the field. Like he is definitely, I think going a long way towards being the player of the season in a really, really shitty season for Wolves. But at the same time, like you just got to know better. You just got to know better in that situation. And we're right outside of their penalty. It's not like he's like defending his own box and this is a make or break. And you would say that's a risk you're willing to take. Like winning the ball back there. Yeah, maybe it gives you a chance to, put something together and get a shot on target. But that's just not the way the game was going. So, at that point, you got to know better than to lay off. So, I just think it was a weird decision to kind of roll with what they were going with, when the only thing in that scenario that could, give Arsenal a real advantage is leveling the playing field, and they were definitely going for it too. Like that's the other thing, they're always diving, and this was a true foul, but like I'm not convinced that one way or another this is going to end 10-on-10, because they were definitely out to get somebody on Wolves sent off, and Joao Gomes was just the easy target.
Brian, what do you think Vitor had to be thinking to not substitute Joao out sooner?
I don't know. I think it's just because he trusts him so much. He trusts both of those guys to the hilt, which, I mean, I generally can't usually argue with because their effort is always so high. But yeah, as soon as they were probably at the 50th minute, 55th minute, our entire text string in Charlotte Wolves was like, it's Tommy Doyle time, it's Tommy Doyle time, it's Tommy Doyle time. Like, what are we doing here? But I mean, that's the only thing I could think is that like he knows the effort that Zhao brings. He knows the quality that he has. But I totally agree with Alex. Like, and so this is one of those few instances where we should have the share of the ball. We need a guy who can pick a pass, and no one was picking a pass on that game. All the passes were a yard off. The passing was so bad we couldn't string something together. Tommy Doyle is the guy to fix that, or it felt like Tommy Doyle's the guy to fix that. But like I said, like it's easy to Monday morning quarterback these things. He knows what these guys are up to. He knows what he trusts. So I mean, that's the only thing I could think of at the moment was that he trusts Zhao so much, especially with how dangerous Arsenal can be, that I'm sure the last thing he wanted was to get picked apart being up a man. So that is my thought. But yeah, we were very much were pro TFD.
So I guess, Paul, what we've determined is that Tommy Doyle is not like Beetlejuice. He can't say his name 3 times and then he pops up. So,
He might not be in Portuguese for sure. He definitely seems down on the pecking order.
yeah, and that kind of goes along with there was a slight little rumor out there that Tommy Doyle could go out on loan. I don't know about that. I would not agree with that at all. I know you would not either, Paul.
Well, like the thing for me with this setup and his what looks like Vitor's insistence on a 2-man midfield is firstly that three-man forward line ain't working because goals are dried up. None of them are in form now. Cunha's gone off the boil completely. Strand Larsen's hurt. Like, at least try and be a little bit more flexible to see where you have got some strength, and the strength is by numbers in the middle of the park. So suddenly if you switch that formation and make it a 5-3-2, you could still play a number 9. You could still give Cunha a free role, just go out and play, pick up that position. But then in the 3, you've got license. Then you can have one defensive midfielder that just sits in, Tommy Doyle that can be your playmaker. and then someone else, if it's Joe Gomez or if he's suspended, Christ, even Bellegarde can play on that left-hand side as a midfielder. That's purportedly his best position. So there's flexibility within there, but it seems that you're stuck on this idea. It's got to be a 5-2-3. That, and to make that work, it looks like he wants certainly a bigger, more dominating central midfielder. Whether he's going to get him, I don't know. But unless that happens or something changes with the parts that he's got, it's going to be a struggle.
Well, you mentioned Strand Larsen, and he went off in the 32nd minute. Looked like a hamstring injury. He looked to be pretty devastated by it. Alex, how do we fill that gap?
I've got no idea. I don't have any answers. And this is another one that I feel like, we could have seen coming from a mile away. We've talked about a million times this season on this show how we don't have a second striker really. Like Hwang is not a true number 9 who could play up top by himself. Cunha is obviously not that. Geddes is certainly not that, and failed to flatter in that position when played as a 9 in the preseason in spots here on the U.S. tour. And Big Sassy is obviously nowhere near being ready to play. So
where is Big Sassy?
It's a failure in squad planning again. It's reminiscent a little bit of the end of last year, except even our kids, the under 21s, and Chiwome, I think, had a season-ending ligament injury as well. So like even the guys we would normally lean on at the end when we're just completely out of bullets, they're injured. So it's a really depressing place to be because, I also find it interesting that, it wasn't that long ago, whether you agree with him or not, that Gary O'Neill said that Strand Larsen couldn't play 90 minutes. So you have that. And for, they're looking at metrics and all these different data points and all this different science that's measuring like the capability of guys' leg muscles and the likelihood that they would maybe have some type of injury over time and wear and tear. So you're armed with that knowledge coming into it. And then Larsen basically has to play 90 minutes every game or close to 90 minutes every game because you have nobody else and you're always chasing games. So taking off your second best goal scorer is obviously a situation that you can't be in when you really need points to stay in the league. It's really annoying. Like it really pisses me off because it's like, how have we not graduated from the point where like any warm body at striker is what we need right now? And we're here again. Like, I don't know how we arrived here again, but that's where we are. It's like, where's Diego Costa? Get him off the beach. Take the drink out of his hand. It's time to get in shape. Call the wolves, the actual literal wolves, chain them up, and we got to do this whole thing again. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Paul, does Fabio have a recall clause in that loan?
I think that's really scraping the barrel then, isn't it?
Yeah.
That you can't keep on trotting that one out. Even that horse is severely flogged to the extent that he's having a semi-decent season, but it just doesn't jive. And I think Portuguese coach, regardless, I just don't think it's like Wolves is his kryptonite. It's never going to work.
It'd be one of those fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me, fool me 8 times with Fabio Silva.
Give me the number 9 jersey. Yeah, it just doesn't work.
Well, there has been a bright spot the last couple games, and that's been new signing Brian Agbado. He's looking pretty good.
Oh, he's been a beast. He was amazing in that game. He was our best player by a mile in that game. Yeah, he was looking like a real S2 If we get one more, if we could clone him and put him on the other side, our defense would be 10 times better. He's been a real pleasure to watch.
I really like that part of the commentary where they were screaming for a foul or a penalty when the attacker just bounced off him. And then the commentators were talking about what the VAR said, and they mentioned that the VAR team said good defending. I'd love a sound clip of that just to play alongside it, because the dude literally just bounced off him.
The VAR ref goes, that guy's a fucking unit.
Yeah,
Jeez.
got to give a penalty for it
He's a
for running
shithouse.
running into a brick wall.
Well, with that loss, and then Leicester City came through and beat Spurs. So Wolves back in the relegation zone, sitting at 18th. Paul, do Wolves ever get out of that?
I'll tell you two answers. One at the moment is no, but there could be a different answer come whenever that transfer window shuts on Friday. So I think this week is generally make or break. Because if anything, probably Saturday and the result in scoreline of Leicester's on the Sunday probably showed them where they need to be and where they have in theory been for the past 2 or 3 weeks. But it's just had those poorer teams underneath us that have still been poorer. And it's only been through that type of look that we hadn't seen us drop into that bottom 3 anyway. So I'm hoping that it's a kick up the backside, both for front office to pull the fingers out and get some players in. And then the players that we've got to take a hopefully long, hard look at themselves and pull something around, because this is the element of what's concerning me a little bit, is that there doesn't seem those genuine leaders on the pitch to really rally the troops and generate that type of collectiveness, the backs against the wall siege mentality. Even like, I'm a fan of Semedo, but I don't think he's captaincy material in a million years in terms of that type of leadership. Cunha, similarly, he can talk of him being of a captain, but I don't think he's got those distinct qualities that you need, and you probably need a balance through the side in each positional group of someone that you can look towards and bring that. I don't think we've got it at the moment, and that's something that if they don't fix collectively as a team, it's a big downward spiral.
And Alex, Vitor's defense has gone to Gary O'Neill's defense, it appears.
Yeah, I mean, Agbadou has been excellent, as Brian mentioned and touched on earlier. And it's weird to say that we found a very talented center half and somehow are still conceding goals left and right. I mean, just the trend over the last few games is really concerning. I know they had the FA Cup fixture wedged in there, but in the last 4 league games, being outscored 10-1 is brutal. Like, I don't care who you're playing. Like, it doesn't. I understand we're playing time, and I know they only surrendered 1 to Arsenal, but giving up 3 goals, what was it, 3 games in a row is just there has to be a solution for that, right? Like, you can find ways to set up where at very least, like, if you're going to lose, you're going to go down like 1-0 and not just be leaking goals all the time. Like, we see that all the time in the league. Like, just be tough to play against. And it's just not happening. So it's really hard to be positive right now. Like, I will say that I because I also agree with what Paul said. Like, it doesn't seem like the mentality is there to want to fix it. And that then it starts making you question, like some fundamental issues. Like, if you're gonna be this like self-sustaining model, even though that's not really what Wolves are. They're just a stopgap team. They're like where somebody comes to play for a season, get paid, and then move on and get the big move that they want. If you're going to be that, the emotional investment and the pride that the players take is never really going to be there, right? So, like, I'm trying to think right now, like, who there is going to really be left to face, the consequences of relegation, because the curse of feeling like we're too good to go down is that many of these players will not be playing in the championship. So it's almost like a free hit for many of them. Like there are no consequences. You could go out there, you cannot give effort, you could not run, you could whatever, and you could end up on Arsenal's bench. Like, and that's what Cunha is probably going to learn, right? And Joao Gomes could end up, starting somewhere else in the Premier League or somewhere else in any of the major leagues in the world, and still be a Brazil international. And it's just like none of that matters. It's really hard to channel positivity from that standpoint when you look at the trends over the last 4 games. And you look at the body language, like I hate to be body language guy, but Chris Fisher was guesting last week, is 100% right about it. Like, where's the inspiration? It's a damning, it's a damning thing. When you feel like when you're watching on your couch and you feel like you care more than the 11 guys who are out there.
I think the extent of that even shows itself in the setup and what they look to execute as well, because what was our best chance on Saturday? It was probably when Semedo took a run down the right early-ish in the first half and whipped that great ball into Sarabia. Now, it would have been a great finish to put it away first time from there. But when did that ever happen again? When did they really go for it to try and attack him? That brings a bit of life back into the crowd as well. Get the crowd on side, get them. It goes 2 ways in terms of atmosphere. The fans work off the team, and the team works off the fans as well. So when that's missing, when you haven't got those players to get bums off of seats and cheer them on and get excited, then it permeates. But that was disappointing for me on Saturday, that apart from that really one chance, you never had someone really go at them or give them a go. And is that confidence? Is that instructions that they're taking on from the coaching staff? Who knows? But it even gets me when I think we talk about leadership, we talk about qualities of the players that you want on the pitch. I'd rather have someone of the ilk of a Rodrigo Gomes up there on the right-hand side and just say, go and play, kid. Nothing to lose. Go and run at them. Take a man on. Use that confidence, rather than not just throwing him under the bus for the sake of it. Rather than a Pablo Sarabia, like it defeats the object for me when you're gonna trot him out after the performance we saw against Chelsea. Maybe it was the thought that, well, he'll have more space at home. Seems it's Arsenal, and they'll be coming on to us more to allow him more flexibility to execute on the game. It was pretty apparent early on that didn't matter jack shit anyway. We were desperate for some type of outlet, someone to pick up the ball and drive at them. And I'm not saying, I'm not wholly blaming Sarabia on this at all. I'll probably include Cunha in that list, and even out Nuri, that at home as a wing back with attacking intent, you needed some more end product from the likes of him on Saturday, and that was way off.
Speaking of Cunha, Alex, we have a no stupid question from our favorite Minnesotan, Triple X Sexy Sexual.
I was wondering if you were gonna just call him Todd or Triple X Sexy Sexual, but yes,
never again.
Todd DeWitt emailed in a no stupid question. hello@wholelotofwolves.com is the email address where he did so, and you can too. He asks, does Cunha deserve to be benched for his attitude, and can we afford to not start him? This is a tricky one, Josh, because you're trying to get an extension done with the guy, but is he worthy of playing over some of these guys on the bench who maybe need to make a name for themselves?
I mean, I don't know who you'd put in his place right now. Honestly,
No.
I mean, especially if Strand Larsen's out, you take him out. What, you're going to start Aitnery up top again? Is that what we're going to do? I don't know, Brian.
Yeah, that is to Alex's previous point. We're in a spot where you're right. You can't really have consequences, and I'm sure he kind of knows that too. He knows he is the best player in this team by a pretty far margin, and I felt like I saw a bit better attitude in this game than we did the last two from Cunha. So So I don't know if he feels worthy of benching from an attitude perspective, but even if he was being a real shit, I don't think we can afford to bench him especially until we know more about JSL and like what that injury statement is. Because I just saw Forbes is hurt as well. So like, what do you do? Put Wang and I guess Rodrigo's again. He's the only spark plug up there. Like Wang's out of form, Geddes out of form. Forbes is hurt. Bellegarde's not good on the wing. Like, who else can you do?
Oh, that Sarabia Huang front line would strike terror in the hearts of no one, Paul.
Yeah,
It'd strike fear in the hearts of maybe Preston North End, QPR,
yeah.
some
I
of those
think
types of teams
if
next season.
I think just the checkbook of Jeff when he looks at it and goes, Hedges on 90 grand a week and Sarabia too. This is costing me almost 200 grand a week for these two guys.
He's For the record, I don't think Cunha's leaving. What do you think, Brian? Yes or no? Leaving?
No, not in this January window. No, I bet it would require such a blowaway offer, especially with a JSL injury now. Because like, if you sold them, like, what would you do? Like, if there's not enough time to recoup back, who would you get back that'd be good enough? It would take someone way too long to bet in. There, it would require something that would just be so stupid that they couldn't turn it down. I don't think someone's ponying up that money anymore. Like, that's just that Chelsea throwing 100 million on Caicedo style transfer just isn't really around anymore.
Yeah, and I don't even think that's enough, Paul, because the cost of being relegated is more than a stupid Cunha price.
I think it would. There may have been legs in it. There may have fended some offers at the start of the window just to see if we'd bite on anything. But now, with only a few days left, I think it's impossible. But that's not to say, regardless of what division we're in next season, he could still be off in the summer. I probably think the most unlikeliest thing at this point is that contract extension. So I'd probably be surprised now if we're going in after the transfer window closes and they do announce that he's signed a new contract. I'd be quite surprised unless we've sold our soul to some type of relegation clause within there or some minimum offer that we've got to accept to give him his move.
I mean, I say just give him the relegation release clause because you're screwed anyways. If you get relegated, might as well.
Yeah, because then they have us over the barrel.
Yeah, exactly. Well, there seemed like substantial rumors because Paul's favorite insider, John Percy, tweeted it out. And that's that they're looking at Kevin Danso again from RC Lens. Now, they were saying 16 million pounds bid. Then it came out today that perhaps they submitted 19 million euros. That was turned down. Came back again with 22 million euros. That was turned down. What are we to make of this, Brian?
They already sold the other starting center back to Man City. I'm drawing a blank on his name, so I apologize on that. But I know that would be tough to sell your two starting center backs in one window. So if they're going to get it done, they're going to have to overpay. I guess I don't know what that line is because I haven't really checked how well Lens is doing at the moment, but I can imagine that they're not going to be willing to let go of him without a fight.
What do you think, Paul?
I think from a little bit of research in the background, they're not totally out the mud when it comes to finances. So even losing their two starting centre backs is a possibility. Again, just because if there's an offer too good to refuse, they'd be stupid not to. But that in turn to what Brian says, I just think it means you are paying a premium in January, probably would be doing anyway. I think there'll be some type of not sure happy medium's the right expression, but for us to put in a decent enough bid that's probably accepted if he really wants to move. And I suppose that's one thing that they can point to in terms of how well Agbadu's done so far, that in theory, even 6 months and potentially a relegation, if you're trotting out the performances like Agbadu did on Saturday against the likes of Arsenal, you're going to be in the shop window. So it could be a really quick turnaround for those types of players. If we do go down, they certainly haven't done themselves any harm in securing a move again if they want to leave. So I don't think our perilous position is something that's going to factor in on this one.
I just can't see it happening, Alex. I hope I'm wrong, but I don't know.
See, it does seem like a lot to pull off now with the departures that they had. They are, Brian mentioned their league position. They're
That's
like
they're seventh,
just outside of, like, I guess you could argue that they're like kind of trying to fight to get into a European qualification place in France, but I don't know. It almost seems too good to be true. I guess the one encouraging thing is that, unlike the first time around, it doesn't seem like the player would be the holdup, because I think at first we were under the impression that he didn't have interest in leaving to come to Wolves, and now it seems like he just wants to play in the Premier League, and that he would be on board with this, and it's really between the clubs to work out. So, if you have to overpay a little, I'm fine with it. But again, I do feel like what will end up happening is maybe the deal will not go through, and maybe we settle for a different target at like a little bit lower price point. But who that is, I don't know. And that's what's scary. Is like, I mean, like, we all talk about silly season, and it's we kind of joke about how silly some of these things you wake up each morning and read on XR or whatever. But like, the lack of that is just like, it's also very concerning, It's like John Percy put this out there and it was like, thank you, a lifeline. It felt like we were just like in this transfer desert, knowing that we need players, but we're not linked to any of them. So
it's got a few horrible Renato Sanchez vibes about it in that context.
Oh yeah, he's going to keep circling around every season. Actually, seeing their seventh actually gave me more confidence, because Liga is in a real financial trouble, and with the exception of PSG, all the other teams are like hemorrhaging money left, right, and center. Their TV deal is absolute dog crap. So all of the teams have become selling teams, especially ones that are outside the Champions League. So a Lens, who's a traditional mid-table team, they make their bread and butter on bringing guys in and moving them on. So I don't remember. I think they brought him in for like 13, I want to say, in that ballpark. So if they brought him in for 13 and sell him for 24, I think they might be pretty happy to do that. So that actually made me feel a little better.
Alex, there was another no stupid question from Mr. DeWitt.
Yes, there was. He also asked, should we be looking at bringing in promising players from the Championship to help bolster our ranks in this transfer window?
What do you think, Paul?
Yeah, possibly. But again, it's like you got to be really selective in who you're going after from that league, because obviously the top players are probably playing towards the top end teams that are challenging for something, either automatic promotion or playoffs. So there's still something there. So throw into it that the January premium. Is there like a the homegrown tax as well to factor into it? So you've probably got a little bit more of that when it comes to the those Championship players. Saying all of that, Palace did it with SA, is it, from Millwall, and he came on and scored on Saturday. So they're out there. We had links with Tanganga from Millwall as well. So there's names kicking around. It's always something that I've always been a little sad that we've missed out on, because it always gives you something to attach yourself to a player that you're effectively bringing in and you're raising up a little bit. If it comes from the league below, or it's a homegrown player like in the mold of Tommy Doyle, I've got much more affection for Tommy Doyle and the journey he's been on, probably based on, Tommaso Doylio from wherever, if we got him as the reserve team from overseas. That factors into it as well. But there's an element of probably Traore in there as well, that we signed all those superstars when we went up to the Premier League, but there was us potentially picking off the best player of all the teams that we left behind, and we've never seen that anymore, which is, it's a shame.
At this point, what's the risk in doing so? Like, if you're admittedly not going to be pushing for Europe, and if Jeff Shee says that, like, in coded terms, that 17th is what we're going for every year anyway, you're going to have the off year where you're going to get relegated. But if you went out on a limb and spent a little bit of money on a championship player and just end up getting to have him in the championship next season, so be it. It's not like going out and spending money on a player who, like, is way too good to play in the championship if you do get relegated, who would immediately leave after a year, and then you would lose all this money on. He would just be someone that helps you with the promotion campaign the following season, and you hope that you're just doing a 1-year tour of the championship, right? So what's the risk? Like, it's weird that a club of the level that Wolves are at right now are not even really ever linked to a lot of those guys. I guess Doyle is the exception, but still, it's like and the notable one I could think of is Gorkaresh, who was obviously way too good for us. But, like, sometimes like the guys who are scoring a crap ton of goals in the championship are actually really good players. Like, it works sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, Ivan Toney, remember, he was scoring a boatload down there and then carried it on into the Premier League.
And if you're going to do it in January, like, it's a lot. I would assume it's a lot easier to move clubs within the same country, which is, smaller than a lot of states in the US, than it is to be like, oh, I'm going to go through this major life change where I'm living in the south of Europe and it's 55, 60 degrees and sunny every day. And now I'm going to, the Midlands in the heart of winter and have to, adjust my whole life. And by the way, we're in the middle of a relegation campaign or a relegation scrap. It's like, these guys are used to that. They're built for it.
Yeah, plus the visa issue as well.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing, right? All the deals that die on the vine at the deadline night, right? Because we can't get the paperwork sorted out. Oh, man.
Well, guys, let's look ahead to Saturday. We've got a derby, Phil, and that is Wolves versus Aston Villa. It's Saturday, 12:30 p.m. Eastern, 11:30 a.m. Central Time. So what are we thinking on what a lineup's going to look like? Because, Paul, JSL, we're going to assume he's out, and I think that's a pretty good assumption.
I think from just looking at that forward line, it seems to me that obviously there's no natural number 9 replacement. So I would like to see something along the lines of playing Cunha centrally as a false 9 even, and getting more of a free role if he's going to pick it up deep and advance that way, fine, and give him that license, but then have some legs up there to do the chasing down. So that would probably be in the form of Wang on the left and Rodrigo Gomes on the right. I'd really like to see him get the start. At least it brings a little more solidity down that right-hand side as well. So that would be how the front three shape up. But really, it seems we're going to be stuck in that central midfield now, because just having the 2 men in there if it's Andre and Doyle, or heaven help us, Bellegarde as a two, it is one scary prospect. So I'm pretty stuck on it, to be honest. I don't think we're going to see. I think our business will be late. We're not going to see someone come in at this late hour. We're going into Tuesday. We need that player in and holding up the shirt by Wednesday to probably be in contention. So I can't see that happening. So I think he's got to make do with what he's got, and that's not a good prospect at the moment.
Brian, can we be done with Sarabia as a starter, though? I mean, every time I think we've finally gotten past that, then here he comes again.
Yeah,
It's like
I
that
hope
bubble
so.
gum on the bottom of the shoe.
Yeah, I definitely, And I'm with you. My hope is we get to see some Rodrigo, um, especially kind of going against Villa, and that the pace they'll probably bring on some of their sides. And I'm just gonna assume Wang's gonna start probably up top. My guess, if you had to go like what I'd like to see versus what I think we'll see, what I think we'll see is probably just a like for like with Wang. What I'd like to see is much more, probably more like what Paul was mentioning with Rodrigo on a wing. We'd probably have to do wing as well because that's I don't know what else he got right now.
How about you, Alex? I mean, that seems to be the consensus is Huang coming in.
Yeah, I guess it feels somewhat inevitable. I think it's very, very likely. I agree, but I guess it would also be a good game to try Paul's 5-3-2. Well, no, actually, it wouldn't. But I guess you could argue that if we had Joao, it would be, or Lamine, if Lamina still wanted to
If
play,
Lamina would
if
play,
Lamina showed up,
But what if you had Andre as the true holding defensive midfielder, played Bellegarde as a center mid with Tommy Doyle, and then just played Cunha in a partnership up top with, I don't know, pick one, Geddes, Swang, whoever the hell, it doesn't even matter. Like at that point, because literally we're just going to be defending, playing counterattacking football, and really hoping that we catch him once on like a ball over the top from Doyle to Cunha, who slots it home. Like that's and I'm fine with that if the approach is this is going to be a 0-0. Like cool, like sign me up, right? Because I think it's foolhardy to come out with the same system and think that without Larsen, who is really good at holding the ball up, that we're going to be able to launch any of these counterattacks with Cunha in his current form, with one of Sarabia, Geddes, whoever it is, and then Huang trying to play as a 9. It just feels like at that point, like almost an impossibility, you know.
Paul, I feel like this is going to be a match where those JSL haters kind of see like, oh, maybe he is really good and a good fit on this team.
Yeah, I'm one of his biggest fans. But
yeah, I am too.
I can see why he gets why he comes in for flat, because like on Saturday he was getting out muscled, beaten to the ball, whereas they were carving opportunities, and their players like Havertz was showing up more. But again, you're looking at two totally different teams and caliber teams and how they're set up. But for me, I think it was poignant today. I think Musings from Molyneux put a thread out on X about where you really see the benefit of Strand Larsen's game, and it's not necessarily winning those battles with high balls and bringing it down, controlling it, knocking off, running into space. He's probably one of the most mobile number 9s in terms of running the channels, which has probably been one of his downfalls in getting into the red zone and popping a hammy. That's his game, that he can run, he can work those channels, he can hold it up in those situations and bring others into it, or he can pop up with a goal like he did against Spurs. So I've got no issue with Strand Larsen. I think he's great. I think the only thing that he needs is the service, because he's not going to get those 3 chances like Forest every week and score one. He's going to have those misses. So if that can improve, great. But we give him more opportunities in the box, around the 6-yard box. He's going to score.
Alex, I bet Bruno Lage thinks he'd still be undefeated at Wolves were it not if JSL was on the squad.
He might be right, honestly. It's
And
better
then
than
try and
some of
get
the
in a fight
we've
with
been
a fan
seeing.
over it.
Yeah.
Well, guys, let's look at the prediction standings. Danny's still, running away with it, 23 points. Alex, you've got 16 points. Paul, I kind of snuck in on your lead a little bit there. You're at 11. I'm at 9. Uh-oh. Am I going to pull a Lester coming back? And then the guest spot with 5 points, Brian. So you got to make it count, Brian. What you got?
This is hard. Honestly, actually, Villa haven't been playing that great lately. But I don't see our goals, and our defense has been so bad. I'm gonna have to go 2-0 Villa.
Oof, 2-0 Villa. Okay. Alex?
I'm gonna go with the scenario I laid out before and say this is a 0-0 draw. Sign me up.
I'd take a point. I'd
Yeah.
absolutely take that.
Absolutely.
All day.
100%.
They also have a midweek game. It feels like the right time to catch them. I just don't trust us to be able to score in our current form. So by predicting a 0-0, that is a very optimistic prediction from me after what I felt like has been a very pessimistic show. So 0-0. Let's go.
Let's go, Paul.
I've got very negative vibes as well, unfortunately. I've got those Notts Forest at home 3-0 vibes, unfortunately. But I will try and detach myself from those and say it's a derby, and oftentimes the derby will end in a draw. And I think we will score, maybe get a pen, score from the penalty, but be hanging on somewhat, and they'll equalise. So it'll have the classic 1-1 draw.
1-1 draw. And Paul, you took my thunder there. I was also going to say 1-1 draw. Well, that's not going to help me in the standings. So, what the hell? 2-1 Wolves. I got to make up some points somehow.
Yeah.
No Stupid Questions is brought to you by Esfuerzo Wines. Located just north of Santa Barbara, California, Esfuerzo Wines showcases passion and 3 generations of winemaking in every bottle. Whether you're toasting some Vino de Vitor or winding down after a day of work, let Esfuerzo Wines transport you to the heart of wine country with each sip. Now at esfuerzowines.com, you can use the promo code VITOR, that's VITOR, at checkout to receive a 30% discount off your order. And don't forget to try the special edition 1-pack wines to show your passion and support for Wolves with each glass. This message is intended for those of legal drinking age. Do not drink and drive. Excessive alcohol consumption may be harmful to your health. If you or someone you know is struggling with alcohol abuse, please seek help. Esfuerzo Wines reminds you to enjoy their product responsibly and in moderation.
All right, no stupid questions. We sprinkled a few of them in throughout the show, but this is the segment and time to get them in. If you're one of the live viewers here on the stream, please go ahead and submit your no stupid questions. The other ways you can get a hold of us, hello@wholelotofwolves.com is the email address for the show. And of course, reach us on X at WLW Pod, brought to you by our good friends at Esfuerzo Wines. Tonight, I am actually drinking more Esfuerzo wine. I'm going with the 1-pack Sauvignon Blanc. It's
Paul's got some too.
We can't just wait for Wolves victories for we will toast Vino de Vitor when they do win, but we gotta drink through the pain anyway. So I'm enjoying this nice crisp white as we speak now. So let's get to some of these questions that we have not gotten to yet. King Wolf 84 asks on X whether Jeff Shee will be transferred out by the end of the window. Now, obviously, it's kind of tongue-in-cheek question, but it maybe is a good launching point to talk about the atmosphere at Molineux, because fans are getting a little bit more vocal. I wouldn't say toxic, because they're also just deflated. But when you have the big boss there and you have Shee there, and the only time there's like unison in the crowd of chanting is basically saying back the team or sell the club. Somebody's got to take notice, right? Like, how do we pull this off?
I mean, Fosun didn't become this billion-dollar company without making good business decisions, which is why I don't understand really how Jeff Shee is still here. It kind of blows my mind. I would have thought Fosun at some point would have been like, yeah, this isn't working. I mean, when you're that big of a business and that successful, like, you've made moves. You've made unscrupulous moves. So I felt like if he was going to be let go, it would have happened today with, Goao in attendance on Saturday. But at this point, I don't know. Maybe he's got him biting on the esports thing. Who knows?
Yeah, it's like we never know what metrics he works to. He could have the most perfect performance reviews every year, every season, based on transfer surpluses and profit that he's squeezing out the fan base and esports and all those shitty corporate deals that they're throwing out now to try and fill a stadium that they've priced out of the regular match going fans. So he could be sitting pretty in Fosun Towers doing phenomenally, but to all of us watching, it couldn't be anything but the opposite.
It's an interesting point. I wonder, when I guess the financial reports always come out quite a bit later on, right? I wonder what the actual impact of all the changes that we saw this year with the price hikes on the ticket prices, but also attendance being lower and tickets always going to general sale, which was not a thing before, which also means people like me don't have to pay for the international membership, because I'll probably, in the off chance I'm going to be able to fly over for a game, could just buy a ticket like a regular person. Like, I wonder how this all equals out in the end. And I can't imagine people are jumping at the chance to get a 10 Cunha jersey right now, like, where if he continued his form, I myself was like, I feel like I need to get one of those.
I haven't seen Wolves fans turn on somebody so quick than they have on Matheus Cunha. Like, it blows my mind. Like,
with the
2 weeks
exception of
ago,
Mario Lamina
was
2 weeks earlier.
Yeah. Well, I felt like with Lamina, people were already starting to lean that direction, but Cunha's like happened. It's like, yay, we love him, and then it's like, tell him to fuck off. It's like, what?
I think that the element of that we got to always remember, though, is the thing that Wolves fans, regardless, will warm to, regardless of talent, is hard work and leaving it all out there. That's based on the ethos of the club, the part of the country that it's founded in, all of that traditional stuff. So it's always been the case whenever you've had that talent player, that flash in the pan type player, you've really got to be worth your shit in order to get that buy-in from the crowd, because they will pick up on any type of bullshit, any type of bad attitude, any arms flailing and blaming other players, that it becomes apparent. So there's that fine balance to strike between having that maverick and having someone that the crowd warms to, because they know they're putting in 100%.
Yeah, it's a really good point, because we saw the exact same thing happen with Neto when everyone loved him, and then as soon as you started seeing the and then it was the people are just, no, this guy, because I think Danny put this a little while back, but like it felt like he was big time in. He was big time in the people there, and it's one thing they don't stand for. That's why everybody, like, even when Joao got a second yellow that was stupid, he was still clapped off because we're like,
Yeah.
you tried your best. All you ever do is try your best, and you work so hard, and that's why we love you. Yes, you fucked up, but you did it because you were working hard, not because you were being a pissant. So yeah, I'm totally with you.
Yeah. I mean, I also, last thing I'll say about Cunha before we move on to that other question is the post game antics in the middle, like in the Gone, like going down with the ship thing with Gone, Gary O'Neill. Those are, I mean, that also plays in pretty heavily because that showed us a side of Cunha that we didn't really see otherwise, right? Like that almost plays into a stereotype that you could argue is unfair for some of these players are borderline even racist, like and that is that they have this temper that can't be controlled. Like Cunha was never that. He was always a leader on the pitch, and on top of the transfer rumors, on top of maybe not giving the effort recently, like putting your hands on an old man with glasses is not a good look, right? Like if anyone saw that on TikTok, they'd be like, screw that guy, that guy's a dick. And let alone in the context of a Premier League game, like where there's cameras all over the place, and you just lost, and it felt really, it felt childish. So I think we that put a big dent in my respect for him. At that, not that I would still back him if he were backing himself and giving it all for the club, but when you're not doing that, it becomes very easy to change the temperature on him. A guy who we will never not back. Ruben Neves and Todd DeWitt, final part of his emails of No Stupid Questions were, do you think Neves misses us as much as we miss him? He's playing
Todd was busy on the email, almost as busy as whoever's running his Twitter account was the other day.
No.
What do you think?
No, Neves doesn't miss us.
I feel like the answer could be yes. I don't know. Talk about someone who actually loves the club. I don't know.
I'm just thinking again back to that point on leadership. Just him in the middle of the park would be a massive help. And again, that pride in the jersey and all of that, I think he embodied a lot of that, and similarly, Raul did and Cody did. And it's not just to look back on those players, but it shows you what could be achieved if you put that caliber of player and the leadership qualities all together, and it gels and it works. I think it could be that we're just at the bottom right now, and it could go all the way back, but it just feels that we're so far removed from those types of players and that team and everything that it brought. It's a little unreal at the moment.
All right, let's finish No Stupid Questions with Drew Freakin on X, who asks, if a friend asks what Premier League team you support, then ask you if they should join you in supporting your favorite team, what would you tell them? Brian, I'm in a bar in Charlotte. I'm a casual fan. I'm watching. I'm like, oh, you're watching this Wolves game. What about? Should I get into Wolves? What are you saying?
I've had that conversation before. It has been it's tough right now. The community around it is generally fun. It has not been so lately. Maybe now isn't the time. We'll keep in touch and let's try again in August. Let's add to the text tree and come back in a couple months.
Yeah. What about you, Josh? I feel like it's unfair to ask Paul this kind of, but
I can talk to it from this side of the pond.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, you guys at you run a supporters club yourself, right? So, like, what's the pitch these days? I can't imagine.
There's not really. It's like at any time I'm talking to like to anyone about EPL, if I hear that they're just getting into it, I'll never tell them like personally to support the Wolves, just because I don't want to inflict the life of torture that I've had to suffer with from it. So if they do end up making that decision, it is solely at their discretion. It was 100% their choice. I don't want to influence it. So I would detach myself from the choice. I'd probably deter them from supporting someone else rather than encourage the Wolves. I'd say like don't go Man City, don't go Man United, don't go Liverpool, don't go Chelsea. You know, like maybe like a Spurs type teamish towards the top or something like that. But like really, when you look at the league table now and you take those top teams away, it's like, well, who you got to pick? Like, there's not as bigger teams that there used to be, like a Leeds, for example. They're not in the EPL, you know. So you're looking at some more underdog teams like a Brentford or a Bournemouth, and that is exactly the type of team that we should be right now. And that's
we
what's
were.
most
Yeah.
frustrating, that we should be saying, well, you could support the Wolves because we're on this upward trajectory. We got this great group of players, and we got one of the top scorers in the league. Blah blah blah. We're exciting. We're scoring goals. We're giving a punch to these top 4, top 6 teams and competing, and we're so far away from that right now. It's pretty shameful.
I don't know
Actually,
if
Bournemouth. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead, Brian.
Honestly, yeah, Bournemouth is literally what Wolves was when I started following. Like, I basically joined a Bournemouth, and at the time, it felt like, oh, this is, you're breaking into something, which I'm sure like Newcastle fans felt when they got new ownership. And you don't really like, but you don't know. Like that top layer is so fenced off that when you hop into it, you you don't fully appreciate how locked in it is, and that your time in that is fleeting, but it's so exciting that I would always, I would say recommend is hard because everyone has their own reasons for for supporting a specific club, but I have enjoyed supporting a non-Big Six club, and I would certainly recommend it because when it works, it is magical.
It's awesome.
In it, while this is wildly frustrating, it is certainly not boring. This is not like being, hell, I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have the Carolina Panthers. I think I've watched 3 Panthers games in 5 years because it does not matter one way, shape, or form. They could be the worst team in the league for a decade, and it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess like, oh, traffic sucks today because I guess the Panthers are playing. This doesn't matter. Like, this matters to the people here. It matters to the people in Wolverhampton. It matters to the EPL community and world that big clubs go down, the big little clubs come up. The stories that come around it, like Fulham is so much fun. The fact that Bournemouth is Bournemouthing right now is exciting, and it should be celebrated because they're going to come back to earth eventually, and then we'll come back up again. It all becomes just a big cycle that it's part of the ride that I guess we all get to be on, and hopefully get to stay in because that's part of the fun. And then we get to try it again, and as long as we get to stay in it.
I'm sure Jeff Shee's pitch would be this, Alex. Those who survived that initial period gradually become numb. As the ruthless struggle sessions continue, the protective mental shell helps you avoid total breakdown.
There's a 3. I'm guessing that's 3 body problem. There's a quote for every Wolves. It's just, oh man, well done.
That sounds like an Elon Musk tweet. I hate it so
probably
much.
Yeah.
I mean, can't you totally see that in Jeff Shee's next ENS column?
Yep, I totally can. Yeah, his next penned letter full of AI generated things and quotes from a series. That's ridiculous. I don't know. I know we talked a lot about Bournemouth. I wonder if there will also be a generation of like kind of what Josh and I and Brian are of Vars fans. I don't know if I'm looking at it through like my Nuno colored glasses.
That's a really good shout.
I think there will be.
I'm trying to support Greek-owned businesses, but like imagine the ride that they're on. And Marinakis is an idiot. Like I that's fine, but like the ambition he's showing, like obviously I wish I had that in the team that I was going to support. Right? Like that guy is going to go down in a blazing fire, or it's actually going to work. And it's making me sad thinking of how easy it was to get behind a guy like Nuno, and that somebody else now gets to enjoy that, and that there's a new generation of fans who feel that hope that I feel like we felt. Yeah, I don't know if the Europa League run was the peak for us, then that's great, and I'm thankful for it. But I can't help but be a little jealous of people who didn't get wolves in their veins for some reason, and could shoot for bigger things, which I feel like we could only really say we'll be doing once there's a change in ownership. So
Yeah.
Anyway, fun question. I remember Stu asked something like that a while back, like if you were just like about us though personally, like if you were just getting into the Premier League, would you still choose to support Wolves? And at that time it was really hard to justify, and that was right after Jeff Shee had that first letter and all the sad mate stuff, which is just crazy. But
yeah, it's hard because it definitely seems like one of those things where like building up a good team is really, really hard, but not fucking it up seems also super easy.
Yeah,
I'm telling you, really, for these small market teams, you make one or two bad mistakes and things, and you can point at Fabio Silva.
That's
unfortunate for him, not
I
his
know.
fault, but you can point at that signing as to when everything started to kind of go tumbling.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the table now, and you look at like there are 15 good teams. Like even like the shitty Tottenham is terrible right now, but they're still not. They still deserve to be there. They're still a solid team. Like yeah, staying in this league is really hard. Yeah, if you don't play your cards right, you're not going to stay in it. There are more than 20 teams that want to be in this league, and so at the moment, it doesn't feel like they want to stay in it. So they're not.
It's a rough go. I mean, when Man United has to have their new manager legitimately answer questions about whether or not they're in a relegation battle, like how hard this thing can be, and how one or two bad decisions can literally change the trajectory of your history and possibly even damn you into extinction. As far as we know it. So
Squash us like cockroaches.
Yeah. Thanks to our friends at Esfuerzo Wines, esfuerzowines.com, promo code Vitor, 30% off of your wine order at checkout. We encourage you to do so. Thanks to them for bringing us No Stupid Questions each week, and thanks to you, the listener, and those who chime in with the questions every week, who make it a little fun to talk about this team that is draining the life out of us week in and week out. So thanks to you.
Well, Brian, how can everybody get a hold of you?
Sure. A couple ways. In the Wolves USA, we have you look me up there under Brian Donley. We have a Facebook group at Charlotte Wolves on Facebook. Our X is at Wolves Charlotte. Same with Instagram. Those are probably the easiest way. Or feel free to look me up on the Worldwide Wolves site. My email is on there as well. Happy to answer any questions. Reach out that way too.
Thanks to Alex producing, Danny on the socials, you, the listener, on podcasts, or the viewer on YouTube. If you are new to either, please check out the other, because our exposure, likes, subscribers on YouTube does a ton to help our visibility. We are going to be back this time next week to break down everything what happens against the Villa, and then preview that FA Cup trip away to Blackburn Rovers. So this week our vibes may be low, but it still is a derby. So let us say shit on the Villa and up the mighty Wolves.